Hi everyone, Mike Ernest here. Thanks for joining. And let's go ahead and get started right away. I can see the final people are just signing in. And I hope you had the opportunity to complete that top priority worksheet, because this webinar is all about helping you discover some things that you may not be seeing fully that can help you accomplish your most important business goals even faster than you are currently. And the seminar is going to take 60 minutes, and in fact, I even put a coaching call in right after this just to hold me accountable to make sure we finish up on time. And not that $65 is necessarily going to keep you glued in your seat, and hopefully it's going to be my dynamic personality and my content. But I do want to offer those that are able to participate through this entire webinar an ebook that we're even going to be describing in this webinar, and give that to you just as a thank you for really participating fully. And with that in mind, make sure you complete your polling questions, and you really ask questions and get engaged, because that's how you can extract the most value out of our time together possible. So with that being said, I'm going to transfer over to the slides, and let's go ahead and get started. And again, I think you've made a great choice to attend this webinar, and I want to prove that to you here over the next 60 minutes. But one of the reasons why I think it's so important is because we're going to be talking about a blind spot that affects really all of us, whether we're a CEO of an organization, or we're frontline management, or we're an entrepreneur trying to make things happen, out of our garage. This blind spot affects all of us, and it's incredible because we just don't talk about it in any level of detail. And it certainly doesn't show up oftentimes as an actual strategy on how we can do things better, what a competitive advantage could be. So I'm really looking forward to sharing this information with you and giving you a bit of a breath of fresh air in terms of all the things that are typically talked about in terms of how do you achieve, how do you better execute compared to our dialogue today. So our agenda is going to look like this. The first thing that I'm going to do is reveal this costly and consistent blind spot that we have in business. The second thing is we're going to explain how to convert that blind spot into a strategic opportunity for yourself. And third, I'm going to review with you something that I've found to be effective at helping people and organizations obtain this strategic opportunity, or better obtain the goals that they're trying to accomplish. And just before we get into that, let's touch on these house cleaning items. We're going to turn off the cell phones, close down the web, all the other web pages and apps that you may have as potential pop-ups and distractions, and participate at 100% and see how much value you can extract from this window of time. And I know I participate in a lot of these different educational events, and I have different levels of involvement. Sometimes I'm just listening and multitasking and doing lots of different things. Other times I'm really engaged and trying to extract as much value. And in this case, I can promise you that there's going to be value if you dig in, if you actually think about the polling questions, if you submit answers and really think through how is this blind spot affecting what's most important to you. And hopefully you already completed the worksheet that was associated with the webinar instructions that helped you think about and further clarify the top opportunity that you're working on right now. So as we talk about this content, you're able to apply it and make it as relevant as possible to the things that are really going on in your life right now. And before we dig into the meat of the content, I want to provide you just a little bit of background on me, because unlike a lot of people out there, I've actually spent the last 20 years really trying not to be visible. And I'm a pretty family-oriented guy that doesn't really do a lot in social media up till now. As my mission and my vision has changed in terms of what I want to do, I am starting to finally step into some of the social arenas. But historically, I've been pretty much off the grid unless you've been referred to me, from another business colleague or another customer. So really quick, since 1995, I've worked with over 400 companies. I've enjoyed multiple liquidity events and raised millions of dollars of funding, and I've trained thousands of professionals in the areas of complex sales and communication and negotiations. And I've had numerous different roles during that time, anything from a outside consultant to a business analyst and VP of business development and president and CEO and board of director and probably angel investor and a lot of other types of titles that are out there. But so I think that I've played a lot of different roles and seen a lot of different vantage points as it relates to business, and certainly an entrepreneurial vantage point is one of them. And then projects have included anything focused on revenue growth and increasing both the amount and predictability of revenue, to operational efficiency types of projects, to a fair bit of software development work also. So it's been a wonderful 20 years in business, but it's certainly not been without some colossal failures also. Probably most notably was the 2009 meltdown in the construction space when I was really all in trying to turn a specific company around. And I'll never forget, I went on a vacation for a few weeks and was looking at the following year with millions of dollars of sales and profits already booked for the following year. And by the time I got back from a 4-week vacation, and pretty much the entire industry had turned upside down, and all my clients, customers had declared bankruptcy and folded up their projects, and I was left, holding the bag with millions of dollars of outstanding bills and a real mess. And it took me a long time to try to unwind from that. And if that wasn't enjoyable enough, at the very same time, I had been asked by my board of directors and a company that I was a significant shareholder in to really head up a merger between this company and a soon-to-be publicly traded organization. And that too melted down into a boiling pit of despair. And so those were some pretty uncomfortable times, to say the least. And I wanted to point that out because no question, I'm not perfect, and I'm certainly not trying to portray a flawless business person that's never had any bumps along the way, because that's simply not accurate. And along those lines, I want to make sure that even the information that I'm presenting, I don't want you to believe me. I want you to think about it. I want you to test it. I want you to challenge it. But most importantly, at the end of the day, and when the dust settles, I want you to use it if it makes sense or it can be of benefit to you in accomplishing what's most important to you. And it's my experience that when you sit back and take this information in, you are going to obtain some new tools and some new lenses to see your business through that can really be helpful. So just a little bit more about me in terms of what I'm doing rather than being in social media and out in the public. I've got 4 great kids, and we enjoy lots of travel and lots of events around the world. And just in case you're wondering, the person in the lower left photo with me is not necessarily a blood relation. I'd certainly have her as a daughter any day, but she's not necessarily a direct descendant or part of my crew of 4 kids. She is actually from the Himba tribe in northern Namibia, and again, beautiful person, but not necessarily a direct relation. And the places that I really enjoy spending time, oddly enough, one of them is in the airplane. It's a great solitude moment, and as I travel back and forth from Australia and multiple continents each year, I actually find great solitude and some decent airplane time. Also love spending time in front of people and teaching. So, we do a lot of online teaching now and coaching, but getting in front of groups in speaking and facilitating larger programs is a true joy to me. And then, in all full disclosure, there's a photo of a kite surfer there that I wish that was me, but it will be someday. It's just a better example than anything that I could show in my repertoire of photos. But it's my kind of new passion of working on my kite surfing skills and try to do that as much as possible. And then when I'm not doing one of those 3 things, then I love to go to unique destinations with my wife, who's Leora Rothschild, and she is the top tour operator in the world for Africa and sending people to Africa and other unique destinations. So somebody has to go on trips and check out places to make sure that they're staying up to par. And I get the good fortune of sometimes of being that guinea pig. So that's a little bit of triviality on me. And the thing that is actually really important is my current mission. And that is to help 100 million people better collaborate with others in order to accomplish more of what matters most to them. So this is what's really pulling me out of the networks that I've been in and kind of those closed loops and staying off the grid I really feel that I've got a strategy to share and a methodology to share that can dramatically improve how effective we are at working together. And so with that being the North Star, I'm looking for as many outlets as possible to amplify my message. So if things like that come to mind during this webinar, please feel free to reach out to me, and I'd love to be of help and service any way I possibly can. Okay, enough about me. We've got an exciting blind spot to talk about, and so oftentimes this blind spot covers up some of the lowest hanging fruit that we have for quick wins in obtaining the things we're trying to accomplish. So let's just go ahead and jump in. And I'd like to begin with a polling question, and that is, what is it that you really want to accomplish currently in business? Is it in the area of winning more, meaning it could be sales, revenues, something about acquiring customers, something in that that winning realm. Typically, we break business into win, run, and do types of areas. Of winning is sales, and running is operations, and doing is providing the service or product that the company is associated with it. And I'm just curious, kind of what area you're focused on right now. So is it in the winning area, the running area, operational efficiency, cost reductions, etc., or is it in the doing in terms of actually providing a better service, doing something better and delivering a service at a higher level? Go ahead and answer those now. Okay, great. And as you're finishing up your responses here to this poll, I wanted to introduce a really important concept, and that is that anytime that you look at any of the goals that you've written down or the initiatives that we have in business and things we're trying to accomplish, I want to point out that there are two component parts, always will be, within a business goal. And the first component part has to do with us wanting and identifying and knowing that we need to do something better. So we got a current result of something. And in order for us to get to a better result, we need to do something better, more of it, faster. And that's kind of how we see the execution strategy. So currently our customer retention is at X, and we're going to do these following things in order to improve our customer service, and ultimately we're going to have a positive effect on the customer retention. And we could look at any one of those, and I invite you to look at yours right now. Anything you have written down, let's say you want to make more money or have more free time or whatever the case is. In order for you to accomplish that, you're going to be looking at doing something better than you're doing it right now. And it makes perfect sense. And I just want to make sure that we're crystal clear that this is one of the component parts. And so when we look at our icons down there, we have work that we're going to put into improving a process of some sort or improving some ability or capability, and then we're going to have a better solution. A solution that could raise more money or generate more money or improve customer relations or decrease operational costs or anything that are that can show up as a business goal or part of or the focus of an initiative. And so that's the first component part, and it's important that we get that and that's alive and well. So now when we look at the second part though, that's when we get into our blind spot. What I've learned to call it is the CQ blind spot. And we'll talk more about the CQ later, but it's a blind spot in the sense that you can ask yourself right now, well, in accomplishing something, what would that second component part be? And in order to explain this blind spot easily, we need to point out that we all have customers, and they're going to be associated with our business initiatives. So if we are, for example, let's say we're selling additional, we want to sell more to existing customers. Obviously, the customer in that situation is going to be the external customer. However, we have lots of different customers in our business worlds depending on our positions and depending on what our job descriptions look like. So for example, we have obviously the external customers, but then we also have our boss, our supervisor. And a lot of times goals that people can have written down will have as the main customer is their boss or their supervisor. So for example, if they're asking or they want additional compensation, they want a raise. And so obviously a key customer in that situation is going to be the boss. Could also be with other colleagues. If we're trying to get a project done, or if we're trying to push some type of change management through an organization, maybe our colleagues are going to be key customers in obtaining that particular goal or outcome. We also have direct reports and employees that are absolutely our customers when we're looking at obtaining better performance out of them. So if part of our goal or our entire goal is around a team hitting certain numbers or certain production statistics, then oftentimes a key customer in that situation is going to be the direct reports. We also have investors, depending on, for example, if we're a CEO or if we're an entrepreneur. Certainly investors can be a major customer, especially if we're trying to raise money or additional rounds. as well as partners. A lot of business these days is done through partners and joint venture types of things. And so maybe what we're looking for is an improved performance and better results out of certain partnerships. So those can also be customers. And what's really important to understand in this dynamic is that we do have customers associated with our projects, especially when we're trying to understand this blind spot. So not only are we trying and needing to do something better in order to obtain better results, but we also have a customer involved in this process. So let me slow down right there and ask the question, who is the key customer involved in your current goal? Is it an external customer? Is it a supervisor, boss, or colleague, or direct report, investors, partners? I guess I could have thrown other, but I didn't put that in there. And let's identify that. And please, put that in your submission here. Perfect. And great. I can see the responses coming in, and there's really a number of different ones as we would expect, right? External customers certainly are going to be coming from more of the entrepreneurial people. Then we've got CEOs and leaders of organizations. No question, they've got the investors showing up here as their key customers, and we've got some colleagues that that are probably more involved in internal projects. And so we don't really see anything that really jumps out as it's always this. It's always external customers. It really is across the board, depending on who you are and where you're coming from. And that's great because it demonstrates to me that you're into this and you're thinking about it and how it relates to your situation. So perfect. So let's get back to our blind spot now. Now that we've established that in any goal that we're trying to accomplish, we already discussed that we're going to do something better in order to achieve that goal. But then we also have a customer involved. And so when we look at the blind spot itself, what we really have is the second part, is that the customer must recognize value in the improvement that we've done and modify some perception, behavior, or decision in order for us to get that goal or to get that improvement. So not only do we have an initiative where we're trying to improve something, but what goes part and parcel with it is that there's going to be some customer involved in that improvement process that needs to recognize that there has been an improvement and that they place value on that enough to do something differently because of it. So whether it's buying a product or a service, or it's deciding to stay as a customer for a longer period of time, or it's deciding to grant a raise, or it's deciding to put the resources in to support a colleague, whatever it is, the customer is there as part of this equation for successfully completing an initiative or obtaining a goal. Is not only do you have to do something better, but you also have to have the customer that's involved acknowledge that and do something different in return. And that customer piece is the exciting missing link so often when we look at initiatives and we look at the resources that are being spent. And people get frustrated in the fact that they're doing something more, they're trying to execute on an initiative, they're trying to make something happen, and they're seeing improvements in how they're doing things, but their results aren't changing. And so often what I found is the blind spot is in that customer management piece. So when we look into a little bit more of the details and we see our customer, and we obviously have our present, our improved work product, our initiative that's pushing ourselves to do better. And we have a customer, and every customer has them. They all have their specific sets of wants and concerns, or things that they're looking for and problems that they're trying to solve. And only when they are able to see how our initiative is going to address or support the removal of their concerns and the acquisition of the things that they're looking for and wanting to achieve, will the light bulb really go on in their head and say, wow, this is better. This is something that I can leverage. This is something that I can support. And so it's making that happen is a component of any initiative. And so often we find that going unaddressed. And so if you look at it a little bit differently, the CQ blind spot looks like this. We have two steps in any goal or initiative. The first one is we're going to do something better or more, and we're going to bring to bear our energy and our abilities to accomplish something. The second part, though, is we must improve how we manage our customers' understanding of what's going on. And with that improvement, we're going to get better results. And without that improvement, we're not. And a great way to look at this in the real world is how many of you, here's a polling question, but how many of you feel that your service or product is already better than others around you compete with that are achieving higher results than you are. So another way of saying it is, how many people how confident are you already in the quality of your product or service, and yet you're not getting the same level of results as you can see some of the people around you who are either at the same level or don't have as good of a product or service. And obviously this is, please, step up and input your responses here. And that is, yes and no. Yes, my product service is already as good or better than my competitors who are outperforming me in certain results. Or no, my product or service isn't as good, meaning we truly do acknowledge it, saying, hey, listen, when I look at my colleague and yeah, clearly they're better than me and they should have been promoted, or competitor A is definitely got a better cost, and value for their product and they deserve to win. So please submit your answers. And unlike the previous submissions, I already know what the ratio is going to be here in terms of the people that are going to say, yep, I've already got a better product or as good of a product compared to the no's. And go ahead and submit those now. And I just kind of want to observe that and do a quick little tally and see what we get. And meanwhile, I'm going to keep talking and then I'll probably refer back to that in a second. And so some of the problems that the CQ blind spot creates is more work. No question, if we don't understand what our clients or customers value as well as we need to, and how what we're doing does or does not address their top concerns and motivators, no question, we end up doing more work as we guess and as we try to do things that we think make sense for the customer, but don't necessarily always resonate. They don't always aren't always seen as something as valuable. So more work for sure. Greater cost. Anytime we start throwing resources, time and money and people and products and whatever, we're definitely going to increase our costs. No question, there's higher conflict and frustration. So often when I've watched in working on project or initiative execution, when things don't go well or when things don't make sense, there's certainly a higher level of conflict as people try to sort out what's working and what's not working and who's not doing enough of something. Another one is there are less opportunities, because when we, it's the classic opportunity cost. When we are busy or our heads are down or we're kind of all in on certain initiatives or certain tasks, we have less time and resources to do other things. So we diminish the opportunities that we can go try to work on or create. And then less profit. Obviously, with more costs come less profit, less progress. There's no question when we spin and we do things that aren't as productive or we go down avenues that aren't seen as important to our clients, we certainly will create less productivity and progress than we would if we were more aligned. And ultimately, when we look at difficulties and strategic execution of initiatives and obtaining of goals, when we're in the business world, most of this time, this is going to trickle down to shareholder value. To the degree we waste time and money, it hurts the overall value of the company. It hurts the agility of the company. It hurts the overall viability of the company. So this problem of not having as much control over managing and working with customer expectations is a major problem. And so we need to look at, why does this blind spot exist in the first place? If it's so important, it costs so much time and money and has such a profound effect on business, then why is it a blind spot? Why don't we just see this and deal with this on a regular basis? And what we see is that there's some real distinct differences between part one of an initiative, which is really trying to figure out how to do something better. And there's some real benefits to watching and working in that area, because we can typically describe the opportunity in a great level of detail. We typically decompose efforts into people and processes and technology, and we can oftentimes be very clear with seeing something that is not as good as it could be, whether it's an inefficient process or whether it's a skill set in a group of people or whether it's a technology that's not supporting the needs of the business. And so we have a great capability of identifying what those shortcomings look like. And so it's easier for us to identify that and improve that, because we also are able to measure a lot of those improvements. And we can hold people accountable to make progress in this area. And so on the side of work capability, how well we do our actual work, we have a lot more clarity and understanding of what that looks like. In contrast to when we jump over to the improving the customer understanding side. Now there, the $64,000 question is, how do we better manage customer understanding? And it was a question that nagged me 15 years ago, and it's been something I've been pursuing through many different channels. And the fact is that we've never been taught how to do that. There's not a class in business school, there's not a class in college that actually helps us understand how we do that. And we call this ability, we now refer to it as the conversational quotient, CQ. And it's all because the vast majority of the time, when we are helping our customers understand or when they are going to understand what we're doing for them and how what we're trying to create in value applies to them or is helpful to them, those things take place in the form of conversations. They don't take place in an email. They don't take place in some type of written type of document. Those discussions, those dialogues, the light bulbs go off in the times that people are actually having conversations, whether it's over the phone, whether it's in person, in meetings, but the dynamic is a conversational one. And so the conversational quotient is what I grew to become clear on, is the skill set and the process by which we do manage customer understanding. And when you peel back the covers a little bit more on why this challenge exists, why this blind spot exists, and why we've never been taught how do we manage our customers' expectations and their understandings of what we're doing or what that relationship looks like. We get into this realm of communication where there are thousands and thousands of books written on communication and different strategies, but there's not one that's defined how to best measure and manage a complete conversational event. So we got lots on verbal and nonverbal communication, and there's things in so many different areas, except this all-important, how do I ensure that I can have a conversation with my customers in a way that I can educate them to the best decisions possible? That conversational event has been missing. And so with that has also been no conversational model, for us to review and be able to debate amongst, a team or a company or an individual and say, yep, I get it, or we need to tweak this and it needs to be called this, but I get this is a best practices process, and I'm going to adopt and use this, and I can even be held accountable to make sure I perform at this level, to ensure that I'm doing everything I can to best manage my customers' expectations. And so that's a major missing component. And then third, the Dunning-Kruger effect is kind of my favorite way of explaining it, but it's this cognitive bias that we have naturally as human beings to think that we just, whenever we're not as good at something, we oftentimes think we're actually better than we are. Like when we're not skilled in something and we don't understand the details of it, we oftentimes have they call it illusionary superiority, where we simply think that we're actually better at than we're not. And when we look at conversational management, there are no rules. We've never been taught, so we've never had any feedback on what we're doing right or what we're doing not as well as we could be. And so we have this natural tendency to think, hey, people like me, and I feel comfortable in social situations, and so I'm pretty good at influencing others' opinions. And what we find is that when you actually get into the details, they're completely different. The skill sets are different from having social conversations to educational conversations or influential conversations. And so we even kind of miss the fact that, hey, this could be an area that I really could improve upon and it can make a big difference for me. So those are some reasons why it's been difficult to see and improve over a period of time. And then when we kind of tighten up that CQ definition, the conversation quotient definition, how we define it is it's the intelligence, so a person's intelligence to manage key conversations. And so when we look at initiatives, we obviously know that there are key conversations that have to be had with our customers in order for them to understand what's going on and to see if they're going to change behaviors or perceptions or decisions as a result of our initiative. And when we look at our definition, we use very specific terms. So, the intelligence means the ability to acquire and apply knowledge and skills. So that's the intelligence. And manage means to interact in a way that develops trust and educates people's perceptions, behaviors, and decisions. Key conversations are ones where there's a desired outcome. As we talked about earlier, when we have a customer and we see it as a key conversation, it means that there's a result that we're trying to obtain from the conversation. And so what we see is that, a key conversation is one where there's a desired outcome, something that we're trying to achieve, and in essence, we're trying to obtain something as a result of that effort. And then customers, again, is what we talked about, is people who we are paid to support. It's a bit of a different concept that I oftentimes talk in my trainings, and that's another kind of novel idea, and that is we all receive paychecks really to support customers. And our customers are going to change, no different than our poll earlier, but our customers are going to change depending on our job description, but really we're getting a paycheck to support them, to help them be successful. And so if we're a CEO and we're there to support somewhere between the shareholders and the board of directors, and it's our obligation to really hear them and support them, as well as in terms of responding to their needs and requests and ideas, as well as providing them information on what's going on in the operations of the company, the results of the company. It doesn't matter if you're at a CEO level or a frontline manager situation, we still have customers, and it's important that we understand that. So going back to, again, the definition of CQ, it is the intelligence to manage key conversations. And we take it even a step further with our level of clarity now and saying we all have a CQ level. So just like IQ or EQ, there is truly a CQ level we have in how effective are we at managing key conversations. So when we go back to this fact that the initiative has two separate component parts, it becomes much easier to see the differences and see that when we have part one in improving our work capability, we have lots of activities that we must do to improve how effective that is. And when we see now that the second component is managing customer expectations and how that interacts with the improvement of the work product, we see that now that's a completely different set of skills. It also takes place at completely different times throughout a week or throughout an initiative. And so we now can see that we have options in terms of how do we approach getting the results that we're looking for. And that brings us to the second item in our agenda, which is to explain how to convert the blind spot into a strategic opportunity. And I think there's a case study that I worked on last year that I think does a great job of this. And the initiative was to gain engagement with some key potential customers in the marketplace that this company had not successfully been able to engage up till now. And each one of these relationships meant a lot to them. So any incremental improvement was going to be considered financially viable or financially valuable. And so what we did is we took 6 people from this electrical supply company in Denver, Colorado. His name is MH Companies. And the VP of sales identified 24 of these stuck and unproductive but strategic relationships. And we put the salespeople through 4 90-minute CQ training sessions and 1 follow-up month of coaching. And the investment was about $10,000. And what I loved about this particular effort was that typically when we look at an initiative, we have 2 different component parts. We're going to identify something we want to do better as an organization or a team. And then we also have the customer side of it. And in this case, we didn't touch a thing on the improving anything on the company side. We didn't give price breaks. We didn't do any kind of special incentives, no programs, no nothing. All we did was we worked on part 2 of the initiative, which was improving how well we engaged with that customer in just managing their expectations and understanding their expectations. And so we trained the salespeople in this CQ process, and we gave them some coaching support for the month where they were having these ongoing dialogues with these unproductive accounts. And the result was fantastic. We were able to loosen up or obtain 71% of the relationships got engaged with the company and kicked into meaningful dialogues. And it resulted in well over $1 million worth of additional revenue. And obviously that's going to be ongoing and continuing to grow over a period of time. But it's a great example of, hey, we can choose our levers of what we want to work on, and maybe ideally we look at trying to do both. Part 1 is figure out what we can do better, but part 2 is obviously we need to make sure that we are managing and engaging with our customers in a way that those things are aligning, and that we're able to ensure that there's an understanding as well as we're hearing back from our customers in terms of where their value is and where it isn't. And that case study does a good job of representing the CQ blind spot opportunity at large. And that is to be able to maintain the current work product level and focus on the untapped opportunity to improve the CQ level of a person, team, or organization and gain more customer buy-in, participation, and support. So, I'm not saying that we shouldn't work on our work product and always become better and more competitive. But what I'm saying is that area has been pretty well beaten down when you look at, how good are your products? Go back to the polling, question. How good is your product right now compared to your competition? And during this webinar, I've been able to do a quick little tally. And once again, already over 90% of you believe that your product or service is already as good or better than your competition. And so it just points out, sure, we can make things better, but it's already good. And so making that a little bit better, it can make some difference, but it's probably not the game changer. Compared to how well are we managing, or the opportunity to improve how well we're engaging with our customers to maximize our understanding of really where they're coming from, as well as their understanding of what we have to offer. And that transaction is what CQ is. It is the conversational quotient. It's how we manage those key conversations where we're having those dialogues and we're helping understand, again, where the customer's coming from, as well as what we have to offer. And the skill set and the opportunity to grow there is so much faster because it's been unaddressed and it's been, talked about. Everybody talks about the importance of communication skills and soft skills and what have you, but that's not very actionable. What you'll find is that the CQ, when you understand what the dynamics are, it becomes highly actionable, and it's very specific to what is needed for a particular initiative. So hopefully that explains what the opportunity is. We've been kind of beating our head against the wall in terms of trying to do things better, and where the real lowest hanging fruit is, and it's almost immediate returns, is in how well the customer understands and the quality of that dialogue and relationship. And I just wanted to run through a few of the typical benefits of having a higher level of CQ. And I know some of this is somewhat self-explanatory, but it also it deserves to be made more visible. The first one is with employers. Stronger customer relations, better strategy execution, greater internal productivity, more effective talent development, and more revealing hiring interviews. No question, employers can do a lot to stand to gain in how they approach some of their key conversations as they look at the organization. Entrepreneurs, no question that there's improvement in the customer acquisition side, as well as the developing stronger relationships and stronger partnering. And that list could go on and on and on. And employees will have better collaboration and innovation with others, easier conflict mitigation, and more managing up. Better managing up is a huge one in terms of, how clear are we on how to engage with our boss or our superiors in a way that we can affect their perceptions, we can affect their decisions, and we can support them in a way that they're looking to be supported. All those skill sets fit into CQ, our ability to manage these types of important conversations in a way that makes sense. Education institutions, definitely more telling student interviews, greater strategic and measurable communication skills development, and more productive corporate relationships. I'm not kidding in the sense that it's not conversational management. Key conversational management is not taught in any business school that I've seen, let alone any college, let alone any high school for that matter. And part of my mission is to change that at all of those levels. And so right now, it's still the most efficient and most cost-effective thing to do is affect business. But I'm continuing to develop more and more relationships now with colleges, that both for their 4-year and their MBA types of, graduate degrees. And students, that's a huge one also. No question they can improve their job interviews, better networking, better collaboration with instructors as they go through school. All those things can improve when somebody has a higher level of CQ. And so that brings us to the third item in today's agenda, which is to review a solution for how to transform the CQ blind spot opportunity into the results that you most want. And really, it's the solution that I've been working on for numerous years on trying to figure out, what's the most pragmatic way of affecting that customer management piece. And so it's a program that I've put together that I wanted to share with you. And it really is a program that begins at the communication basics. And what we look at doing is getting rid of all the things about communication that are nice to haves, and it just builds on important conversational management techniques. And so you don't need any formal training in communication concepts or skills to be able to participate and gain as much as anyone else. And it focuses on your most commonly called upon skill in business, which is communication. And it's funny how much lip service communication skills and soft skills are given, but how little there is to be done about it. And some of that's for good reason, because communication training in its own right really is too vague, and it's difficult to create any meaningful results. But when you turn that concept kind of and turn the lens and focus on a conversational event, and especially if we identify our key conversations, just the ones that really matter to us in our current initiatives, now we reduce the playing field down to something that can be very concise and very actionable. So that's another aspect, and it's a skill that we have not been trained on how to perform up till now. As I mentioned earlier in this webinar, we have never been trained on how to manage, how to prepare for, manage, and really reflect on our most important conversations. So with this in mind, I've worked over the last number of years on creating a program to do just that, to help us understand what are the best practices for managing an important conversation. What does the model look like so we can clearly understand what's expected of us? What's step 1? What's step 2? What's step 3? And so we've developed the ACT Conversation model, which is literally 3 steps and 3 gateways to help us manage our most important conversations, help us prepare for them, help us be able to share information as a result of the conversations. So this program consists of 7 online learning modules distributed over 4 weeks. Each module includes a video training session, a homework form, and a video recap of the key points and expected performance progress for each stage. We also have pre and post assessments to demonstrate how our CQ levels improve over a period of time and effort. And then during the entire process, we're there with you, and we make sure that there's an ongoing stream of email support to get your questions answered and keep you focused and keep you growing in this crucial area of our business skill set and success. And then there's also a bonus video and audio and written material content just to augment that learning process. And that bonus material, I continue to add to it, as I hear interesting things and hear some consistent questions or challenges. We continue to develop that section. And so if you look at the actual course itself, again, it's online. There are 7 component parts. There's a number of other exercises that are required to complete the program. And then when we open up one of the modules, we can see that there are multiple steps within these modules that we check off and ensure that we're tracking our progress. And then we can look at the individual homework forms that are designed to ensure that we're learning what we need to be learning and doing what we need to be doing to grow our skills, to improve throughout this process. So when we get to the end of this program, we have a measurable improvement in our level of clarity and confidence and how we are able to engage with our most important customers. And the price of the CQ Advantage program is $14.97 for a one-time payment, or 3 payments of $5.95 spread out over 60 days, 0 days, 30 days, and 60-day mark, which of course represents only a fraction of what I normally charge organizations for this same type of training and knowledge transfer. But it's still truly an investment, as well as I want it to be an investment for you, because this is something that you need to commit to, and you need to want to go after, and you want to have some meaningful results. And if there's anything less than a $10,000 goal out there, I would be kind of surprised. And maybe this course isn't for you if you're not playing with and wanting to go after results that are going to be significantly more than $10,000. And actually, when I'm saying this, one of the things that comes to mind is I was working for one of the large governmental agencies, and they brought me in to try to fix a broken project, and the price tag on that project happened to be $1 billion. So I guess the value props can range, and differ greatly. But obviously we want to make sure that you feel very comfortable that this is a slam dunk on being able to get a return on your investment. And of course, one of the reasons why I think it's important to do something now versus later is because you continue to have important conversations, and the results continue to move forward. And the faster that we can remedy part 2 of any of your initiatives or improve that area, obviously the faster you start getting the results you're looking for. But besides that, it's also my time. Like, I would love to work with you directly, and I'm sitting on the end of those emails, and I want to be able to respond to you directly. And as I focus in the next quarter more on my CQ Factor book and completing that, my time is going to become more and more limited, and so I won't be on those emails as nearly as consistently as I am currently. And when we look at what other people are saying about this program, it doesn't matter if it's an architect or it's an engineer or it's an attorney or an entrepreneur or a CEO of an organization. The comments are always going to be fairly similar, and that is that somewhere in the thanks for clarifying this area that's been so nebulous. Again, we can read great books on communication and various communication strategies, but there's just nothing out there on clearly defining here is a key conversational event and what are the tasks or what are the steps that I should walk through or move through in order to best manage the outcome of that conversation. And to really understand the results that you can gain from this program, I think it also helps just to go through a little bit more detail of the modules and what we're actually doing. And so when we look at Module 1, it's all about setting you up for success and clarifying what does it take to actually get a lot of results from this training. And so we outline that in some pretty good detail, as well as we set the foundation for our assessments in terms of where is our level of knowledge as it relates to managing important conversations, as well as utilization. What are we doing right now, right or wrong, during our most important conversations. And then when we look at Module 2, we get into this how, where, and when your CQ level directly affects your success in business. And so you're going to get clear in Module 2 what the most important key conversations you have in your career, and then we're going to set in motion how to best manage those things going forward. Module 3 is fantastic, and it's taken me years to clarify, and that's revealing the ACT conversation model itself. And so we go through in detail. Here are the 3 steps and the segues between the steps to ensure that we effectively, or as effectively as possible, manage our important conversations. And so this module stands by itself as the description of the best practices model to use for important conversations, which again doesn't exist out in business today. I wish it did. I would have bought it, used it, brought in trainers to train on it 15 years ago. And it was elusive, but now we have it in hand. And it's exciting to be able to share with you at this level of clarity and detail what is expected of us, or what do we need to do to obtain the best results possible from our dialogues. Then in Module 4, we get into one of the 3 steps, which is the alignment phase. So we dig into all the potential options we have for managing the alignment phase of a conversation. And it gets into the nonverbal and verbal communication strategies. And what we don't do is throw 50 million concepts at you that are not implementable. We talk about the various options, and we identify a few key strategies that you can use to further improve your ability to gain rapport and develop a level of trust and really set a conversation up so it's in that environment where people are more willing to share, they're more willing to listen, they're more willing to exchange and have a meaningful conversation. And then in Module 5, we get into the second step of the ACT conversation process, which is the clarify phase. And in the clarify phase, we help everybody understand the importance and the discipline required in asking questions first in key conversations before we ever get caught up in talking and telling people what to do. And so we identify the different types of questions that are out there, the better quality questions from the lesser quality ones, as well as we talk about the importance of listening. And it's incredible, but only 2% of the population have been trained on listening techniques and strategies. And so that level, Module 5, again, focuses on asking the right kinds of questions, as well as listening strategies to ensure that we demonstrate to our audience that they do matter. We are taking their thoughts and ideas into consideration. And then in Module 6, it's the tell phase. It's the third phase of that conversation process, which is where we get into sharing our insights and our information. And we want to make sure that we are able to increase that pool of understanding and knowledge in a way that's seen as collaborative and not as pushy or not as preaching. And so we're teaching people in this as to how to proactively share information in ways that are well perceived and appreciated by our important customers. And then module 7, it focuses on really turning this new skill set and new ideas, from kind of this basic, okay, I get it and I understand it, I completely believe that it makes perfect sense, I need to do it all the time, into consistent habits, things that we do as second nature. And so that gets into more of a longer term play, because this ability is much like fitness, where we can develop it for a period of time, but there needs to be some type of maintenance. We need to have some type of coaching. We need to have some type of a practice to ensure that we maintain a high level of ability in this CQ area. And I love going into the details of the program because it's so powerful. Again, it's taken years of training professionals and seeing what works and what doesn't work to tweak and modify and update this training strategy. But I'm really excited about it, and I can't wait for you to check it out. And of course, I know that it works, and I've trained thousands of people, so they know that it works. But I'm assuming you don't have a direct experience with this training, and that's why I happily provide a 60-day money-back guarantee. And all that I ask is that you demonstrate that you've done the work, you've completed your homework, you've had the conversations, you've completed your conversation plan forms. And the reason I ask for that is because it's virtually impossible for you to do those activities in your real life environment and not see a significant return on investment in the quality of your life and the level of clarity and confidence that you have as you approach your most important customers. It's virtually impossible. However, I want you to understand that it's much easier for you to get that after the fact, versus before. So 60-day money-back guarantee is certainly alive and well, and I love it. And then also when you look at the value, as I mentioned, yes, I charge more, companies larger amounts of money and things. And really what that looks like is, typically the cheapest that I will come do a training event is $7,600. Ongoing email support throughout the first 1 month of the program is $250. And then my conversation planning templates and sample conversation dialogues are another $60 a piece, which comes to a total of $7,970. So from my vantage point, this is the best deal in town. A little bit more on some other success stories. When we look at some of the larger professional service firms out there, one of the exciting things is to be able to add the CQ element into performance reviews and having that component be much more clear and measurable for HR directors like Cheryl here in this particular case. So being able to, tie performance back to conversational or communication performance is a big deal, and it's oftentimes missing in most performance reviews. Even though it's well known that the biggest reason why people advance in careers is because of their people skills, their soft skills. And so here we have an opportunity with CQ and being able to measure conversational performance. We're able to actually introduce into performance reviews how people are managing their most important conversations. And here's another one from Steve Seiler from MTech, who's in the space of talent development and career development. And we could go on, but it's interesting. Over 20 years and 400 companies, I've pretty much touched almost every vertical that I can think of. And this type of training, this type of conversational management training is 1,000% appropriate for any one of those verticals. And one thing I wanted to do as a thank you for participating in this webinar with me and investing an hour of your life with me is to further incent you to say yes and sign up by reducing the price for the next 10 minutes, another $500 down to $997. And hopefully that really makes this a no-brainer to jump in and start helping yourself, start having more confidence, and improve just the quality of your life, improve just your level of options that you have, the level of autonomy you have in your career. Because as you become a more effective communicator, as you become more effective at managing people's expectations, you're going to become more relevant. You're going to become more important. And with those two things comes choices, options, autonomy. And so the number of benefits that can come from becoming more influential and having a more clear methodology for educating people to the right decisions, it just pays dividends time and time and time again. So again, trying to make this easy for you. And so not only, so we reduced it down to that, And if that wasn't enough to have you push the sign up button, I've got one more bonus offer that I'm really excited about. And that is that I'm going to add 2 40-minute private one-on-one coaching calls with me personally to this program. So if you sign up within the next 10 minutes, you're going to get a $2,000 additional value because I charge $1,000 per coaching call. And if you sign up for this, I will personally work with you on the phone, both at the beginning and at the end of the training or near the end of the training, to ensure that you get maximum results out of this. And we really set you on a path to become an ever more influential and effective communicator. So if that wasn't enough to push you over the top, I'm at a loss to figure out what else I can do. Hopefully you can see that that is a great deal, and I'm really trying to lean forward, and I'm really trying to serve you and help you develop a critical skill set that's likely been off the radar screen for a long time. So with that being said, I'm going to jump over to the Q&A section, and feel free to submit your questions. And I've seen a few come in already, and I'm going to start with those. Feel free to throw down your questions, and we'll look forward to trying to get as many answered as possible. Okay, and before I answer the first question, I just want to give a quick shout out to people who have already signed up in the last few minutes. Amy Wilms, Todd Johnson, Rich Schmidt, Karen Nelson, Brad Nolan, Elizabeth Callan, Steve McCaddy, Luca Fonti, and Jill Benson is what I've seen so far. Again, I can't wait to work with you all during and connecting during that first one-on-one coaching call. So again, congratulations on making a decision that can only bolster your career and your leverage and your level of influence, at your company and with your clients, your customers. So congrats on that. And then for anybody who's trying to make a decision at this point, or is kind of on that fence, trust me, I've been there before also. I take courses all the time in terms of trying to shorten my learning curve and make new distinctions that just further hone my message and my ability to explain or get results. And I know it's never easy. However, so rarely do I look back and say, I didn't gain something that didn't more than justify the investment. And so, with that being said, that's one of the reasons we put that money back guarantee in there. I want you to feel comfortable, but I can't help you until you say yes. So sign up today, get involved, and you'll see very quickly that this was an incredibly wise choice for your career, for your family, what your options are as you move forward in business. So please, give yourself the opportunity to be even more successful than you are now. Now, with that being said, the question, the first one here is why haven't I heard the CQ factor? And before, and it's a great question. It's not Dale Carnegie course by any stretch. I've been testing and tweaking this over the last 24 months and really trying to define what's the most pragmatic, what's the shortest time frame with most leverage and getting the most results, and dealing in a very nebulous area of communication training and soft skills and whatever, nonverbal communication and verbal communication and influence and all these things. And so trying to identify what is that most efficient road to improvement. How can we do it as quick as possible? How can we do it for the least amount of cost, which is obviously both time and everything else? It's taken some time, and I wanted to make sure that I had a very mature product, versus was sometimes promoted in this space, which is don't even have a product. Just go see if you'll sell it first and then quickly build it behind you. It's just not quite how I was structured probably in my engineering days of college. But anyway, so I've been off the radar as I've tried to point out. But at the same time, now this is, lots of students have gone through. This is well proven, and you're going to see more and more of it as we go through now, into the years to come. Let's see. It seems like there are more. This is more salespeople focused, or like in your case study, it seems like that's the question. It seems like the case study was kind of focused on salespeople, and this is kind of a sales topic. And really, that can't be further from the truth. And this is such an important concept to understand, that we are selling our concepts and our ideas and wanting and needing people to understand what we have to offer. And that's really influence. That's educational conversations. Is it sales? I guess there's certainly a sales component. And being that I've trained thousands of salespeople in complex sales and negotiations, I get the similarities or the crossover in places. But really, business people haven't really been exposed to this important venue or this area of being able to explain yourself in a convincing way, and setting up the conversational dynamic that you're actually heard and people are wanting to hear from you, versus feeling at times like you're pushing information on them, or it's not really welcome, or they're not really listening to you. This dynamic, it certainly happens in sales, and I love working with salespeople because it's a breath of fresh air for them also, in terms of some new ways of looking at their types of dynamics. But no question, this is as applicable for a CEO and a frontline manager. And the only thing that changes is what we're trying to accomplish with our conversations. A CEO is going to have a very different set of conversations throughout the day than a frontline manager, who may be monitoring and supporting and influencing 10 of their teammates or members. So definitely, it may feel like there's some sales involved anytime we're trying to influence people to see it our way, for us to obtain what we're trying to accomplish. There's probably some of that. However, this is definitely for business people trying to get results, trying to be more influential, trying to have more leverage over their environment. I love this one. What if my team of 12 want to go through this course? Sign up. Get yourself started, lock in the price points, and just send me an email, and we'll even talk during the first coaching call in terms of what that can look like. And there's some really great things we can do with teams, because there's some consistency of what we're trying to go after. So it's it's something I do a lot of, is training teams of 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 people. So that's not foreign to us, and we can certainly talk through what would make the most sense for you. And do you think my company will pay for this program? Yeah, most likely it will. And matter of fact, you reach out to me and I'll send you a link that describes this course to people really in that career development space, kind of that HR space, because it's easy for them to understand the value that the company is going to get from you developing this particular area of your skill sets. However, I want you to also stay focused, though, on committing to yourself, investing in yourself, and ensuring that you're doing this for the right reasons, that you want to become more influential, you want to be more heard, you want to have more impact, you want to be worth more, you want to command more compensation. Those are the kind of where we need to begin from. But will your organization pay for this? In all likelihood, they will. A little bit more congratulations are due to Mark from Madison, Wisconsin, my hometown. Sherry from Brisbane, Australia, and Amy Fort from Flint, Michigan. Oh, look at the time. So we've got only 17 seconds left. I wanted to say thank you again for your attention. I want to stay true to our time and our schedule. And again, you know where to find me. Feel free to reach out to me with any questions or ideas that you may have that came from this dialogue. And if you're on the fence, make sure you say yes to yourself, yes to your career, yes to your level of confidence and leverage that you have over the people that you work with. And again, we always have that opt-out option in case something goes haywire, but in all likelihood, it's going to be fantastic. So again, look forward to working with you sometime very soon. Congratulations for those people that have already signed up. If you're on the fence, again, I cannot stress enough how critical this skill set is in business and how much it can help you get better and easier results than you've done in the past. Hopefully you found some great value in this. Feel free to, and I appreciate you sharing this information with your friends. Thank you.